I'm so excited to be here with you for the next edition of the Mindset Michele TV show. And it's a beautiful day here, and I hope wherever you are in the world, that it's a beautiful day for you as well, and all of your family and loved ones. So my extra special guest today is the amazing, the indomitable Mr. Chris Weymouth. Hello, Chris.
Amazing and indomitable. I can't even spell that. So fabulous introduction. I'm very, very impressed. Yes. This is person. Oh, it's me.
It's you. Yeah, I did see you looking around. Oh, who's she talking about? But
That's right. He couldn't make it, but you got Chris instead.
Yeah. For those that don't know Chris is the owner of Renew Communication, and he's been working and leading personal development courses and facilitating and educating for quite a long time now. But he started off as a chartered surveyor, and so we're fascinated, and we're going to be talking a little bit today about, when you start off on those traditional kind of careers and then leave that safety and security behind to kind of follow your heart and follow your dreams. Something that I'm sure is really resonating with people at the moment as we go through the difficult changes, etc., in the world. But I'm going to let Chris stop jiggling around on the screen. It looks like you're moving, but I know it's just your screen. That's okay, Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the...
I know, it's because you're so excited. So we're going to let him, Chris, if you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Sure, yes. As some of you can probably hear, I am of English persuasion, or Pommy if you're coming from Australia. I guess to say my professional history is one of being a chartered surveyor, which is apparently a sort of a real estate agent with loads of ethics, which may be a misnomer. But and I was involved in estate management and the agency for commercial properties. I'm delighted to say one of the things is that I was the person who sold the last tapioca mill in London or in Britain. And so having gone through, anybody who went through childhood boarding school and hated tapioca, I got rid of it. So that was me. And in addition to that, I sold, gin distilleries, lots and lots of industrial property. And I was in that time in London when things were very sort of going very well, and I was, I suppose, what one referred. Did you remember that term of a yuppie? Young, upwardly mobile, saying, how many go faster stripes have you got on your car? How much is your flat worth? And how much is all these things? And that was my life. And I used to go on skiing holidays in Europe and do all these sort of things. And I was going to continue on to there. And then they made me into an associate partner. I thought, oh, well, I'm even more impressive in my own mind. So I went, through that. Then life took a turn, because I suffered, a bereavement, a dear girlfriend of mine, she passed away, and I was suddenly left to say, this does not fit with the super yuppie tag. So I had met lots of Australians in my local pub at that time. I met loads of them where we had to come dressed as the name of our favourite tube station, and that's where I got to know so many Australians. And some of them heard about my bereavement, and they sent me a card which I've still got. It says, "Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Come straight to Australia." So I did that, and then bought a camper van and spent a year travelling around Australia. And then, long story short, I got a job offer as a chartered surveyor, or as they were called, chartered chappies in those days. And I was sent to Melbourne and started working there, and for one of those real estate companies, and decided after about 25 seconds that they didn't like me, I didn't like them. And yet there I was. And so I became what I refer to as a jumper. And I don't mean something I was wearing a jumper, but I had this jump, say, from to different places. So I jumped across to another real estate area, say, in development with the John Holland Group, and spent, say, 2 years with them, and then jumped again because, say, it was one of those recessions that happened in Melbourne in the early 90s. And I jumped across. At that time, I didn't really know what to do. So I'd done one of these weird personal development courses because I thought I should. And so came involved in volunteering for them. And then somebody said, hey, why don't you come and join us? Say, because I'd lost the career, had stalled in property because of this recession. And so I jumped again, came to Sydney, say, and started working in marketing these personal development courses. Somebody then said, jump again, say, and they said, you could run these courses. And I went, me? No, I don't know anything about these things. And so I learned my trade in facilitation and went to Los Angeles, jumped again, and suddenly was told I was a facilitator. Came back and started. The original reason I'd done this course was because I thought there was a lady that I knew, and I thought she would return my love if I did this personal development course. What happened? I ended up being part of the facilitating team of the course, and she disappeared off and had hundreds of children, say, with a policeman up in northern Victoria. So the reason I go through all these parts is to say I found that I've become a bit of a jumper, because then I set up, worked with Insight, and then I jumped and set up Renew Communication, jumped to say again, and then worked for another training company, which suddenly found me in 200 kilometers outside Shanghai, and then in Boston, in New York, and then in a variety of different places, all delivering trainings and delivering these trainings. Literally, because they said, yeah, you can do that. Yeah, you can do that. And this is what brings me to my point, to say about imposter syndrome. Because in addition to that, somebody once asked me, what are your qualifications for being a facilitator trainer? So I said, I'm a chartered surveyor. And so I suddenly thought I'd better go and get a qualification. So once again, I jumped, and my dear friend Elizabeth, who worked at one of the universities in Sydney, said, come and do our course. So I embarked on a graduate diploma in facilitation and training. And then another good friend of mine said, look, you can get a master's. And I went, don't be ridiculous, me get a master's. But I could. So in the end, I ended up with a Master of Adult Education, which I love. You'll love this, Michele. So it's the actual acronym for it is a MAD Ed. And I thought, I like that. So the reason I raise all of this is that's basically me. So in 25 years, I've been going backwards and forwards and jumping from one to things, without ever actually getting sort of in my own mind the completion of saying, yes, I have now paid my dues and I've got it. I've just sort of been there and sort of been, yeah, you can do it. Yeah, you can do it. And what that leads me to is that now, for now, traditionally, what I want is to, as well as success or a success mindset. Okay, there's family, there's dollars, there's accommodation, there's all those things. But what I like is that what I want to get out of it is I want to make people laugh. I want to have say clever things. I want to come up there. I'm very auditory and very I'm a mimic, all of those sort of things, and I want to come up with good stories and good ideas. You can tell I've got the gift of the gab. I just blurt and blurt.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I should stop you there so you can take a breath.
Yeah, but what I want to say is to tell stories, kind of thing, to engage with people, to say humor is very important, and being funny is very good to me. If somebody laughs at my stories, I can see you on the screen. If you smile, I go, yay, done it. And but that's all well and good. But when we get to somewhere where we are now, like a lockdown time, the imposter syndrome, so I shouldn't be here. So I'm only here because the real bloke couldn't get here. Starts to take over again. So anyway, I'll shut up. So that's the background.
Wow.
So me sort of coming from being this chartered surveyor to being in Australia to doing facilitation to doing training, and all of the while just trying to sort of tell a good story and make people laugh.
And what a wonderful tale it is, and you tell it so well as well. You tell your story, and you can hear the passion and the joy and the funny stories along the way. And I really like how you describe it as you jumped from one career and one situation to another. I think it takes great skill for people to be able to do that and to be that malleable and flexible. And it's really lovely to also hear the recognition you have that people kind of invited you in. Oh, you can go and facilitate this. Oh, you can go and do that.
It's true.
Not everybody has that kind of feedback mechanism in their lives. So it's really lovely that you had that, and you also recognise that you had that. With all of those different elements, and you started to say, so do you think, if you're looking at what success means to you, is it telling those stories, seeing people being happy? Is that how you would describe your success and what it means to you?
I think that is to say, in a traditional sense, say of being, of what is success for me. It is to say that, people wanting to listen, people want to hear, people laughing, people getting, oh, I could use that. Then I go tick box, tick box, tick box. It's fabulous. And I suppose, the talking about my experiences and my trainings, to say all I do is tell a whole bundle of stories, and hopefully funny ways. I'm a real auditory person, so I love to play with words. And people say, oh, I hadn't thought of it like that. And you'll see, some of the comments I'm going to make is later. But to say, when we get to change, and COVID, and this lockdown period, it's trying to say that doesn't cut it anymore, because I'm not in front of many people anymore at the moment. So I'd say it is brought slap bang into my face again, this idea of the imposter syndrome, which is we've all got it there, and it was like, well, is this really me? And of course the brain starts to go round and round in circles and starts to think in terms of fear. Is the phone going to go again? Is it, what's going to happen? And
so I really hear that. I hear that there's a little bit of that imposter syndrome, because the last jump you made into the training and the work that you're doing at the moment, you then needed to shift it to being online, and we've all kind of had to adjust to doing things online and doing it slightly differently.
Yes, and I'm the one that's still sort of thinking, when are we going to go back to quill pens and pigeons? I'll be fine with that. I'll keep pedaling.
It's quite funny thinking about the fact everybody talks about going back to normal, but we're not necessarily going to go back to what life was like beforehand. What do you think then? And this is great, that context of, you're on the path towards the chartered surveyor. You've done quite a lot of work in that space. A tragic life event happened and it set you down a different path. But there's that sense of feeling like an imposter, and also recognizing that, life keeps giving you these opportunities and stepping into them. So what do you think would be some of the tips or suggestions that you might give for people to help them with their mindset and looking at their success?
Well, the first thing I was going to say was when you mentioned this to me, it said, so what does actually success or succeed actually mean as a definition? And so I got out my thesaurus. I think you said that right. Thesaurus, to say, and it referred to get something, to obtain something, to hit the mark. And then the next thing, it all suddenly went into winning. And so I looked up again, what does winning mean? Because winning is success. And I think in terms of, winner means that somebody else loses, and winning means to say that we stuffed them. And that led me to think, well, is that actually accurate? Because I then looked up winning on the thesaurus or in the Oxford English Dictionary, and it didn't say anything about stuff and we're going to beat them. It actually just said to achieve a stated result, which takes all of the emotion out of it. And so what I thought is that what made me think is say and review this again is you know, in reality, say we're putting in say achieve a stated result in the moment or when we're jumping or a thing. So again, it's not I'm a success or I'm not. Say it's the process of succeeding. And isn't that the other interesting thing? I then looked down the page a little bit further on my thesaurus. I think I said that right. And it said, okay, the next decision was, of course, to succeed, which was done, say, as that basis. It's following on from or a pathway, because we succeed to this thing and we have a succession plan in our businesses. And that started to give me a whole new sort of perspective, if you like, to say on the whole process, rather than winning sort of thing. It's actually, but it is that cliche of the work or the life pathway. And so
and I like that example, because by looking at the words and then going, well, it is actually the journey. So it's those moments and those parts of the journey on your activities and on your projects. It's not succeeding or winning when you've actually got to the end. It's in the moment, each of those different tasks. So as you achieve doing those tasks, at that point, then you, sorry, Chris, the table keeps moving, so the screen keeps moving.
Oh, sorry, I'm sitting here. I'm in my enthusiasm on the table. I won't touch the table. I'll keep my hands up.
Yeah, I think we should hold up our hands and go.
Yeah. The earthquake in Sydney is going ahead beautifully at the moment.
We could keep bouncing though, so that it looks like there's still an earthquake happening.
Okay, I won't touch the table.
And so I love that. I love how with your quill and your other examples, you've gone back to looking at, well, when she's asking these questions, what does it actually really mean? That's a really great place to start in terms of people thinking about what does this mean to me? So that's wonderful. Is there other tips that you'd like to share with people?
Yeah, a lot of it's all about words. And a lot about say, and what do words mean? Because that's what I love, and to say has been sort of the basis of a lot of my facilitation work. There were three things to say. What can I do, if you like, say now to recognize, say, in times of COVID, or so when we don't have the wherewithal, say, to actually have a ready-made here. Look, I'm being successful. What I would say, the tips that I had say is the first and the main tip is what to do when we're in this situation, when we maybe when I may be feeling this lack of say imposter syndrome or inner critic or whatever you want to call it. And I came up with three things to say as a starting thing, and they all begin with A. So this is good for us facilitators, I want to know. And the first one say was to acceptance on a daily or say an hourly basis, and that's to say being present and all right, what am I going to do next, whether it's the washing up or the next training course that I've got to design and deliver, or say go and say talk to my daughter about is she doing her uni homework. That's they say the acceptance is in the moment. So as I now keep saying to myself, acceptance. Second one was
so just with acceptance there, the other thing that I really like about it is that you also pointed out that it was taking whatever the next step was that was in front of you. So whether that was doing the washing or doing the work on the next training program. So that's very much that idea about accepting where you are now and then doing the next thing in front of you or the next activity in front of you. Absolutely. Rather than maybe fighting against where you're at.
So there are three A's in this. The first one is acceptance. The second one, say, is acknowledgement, which brings us back to how many courses we've been to when we said, what are active listening skills? And the second part, so how do you listen? And then acknowledge, 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 acknowledge. And that is to say, the process I said is acknowledge, say, the other individuals that you're talking to, or say the people in your life, of what they're doing. And that is more than anything is just, hey, listen. I have a little sign I used to have above my computer which said, shut up, Chris, because I can sit there and talk. Shut up, say it is. So listen, say is, find out what they're doing. So the acknowledge part, say, is to say, who have you got to, who should you be listening to rather than imparting your wisdom to, whether it's wisdom or not. So there's the acceptance, the acknowledgement, and then the last part, which can often be in times in lockdown we don't do, is to appreciate, which is the idea of gratitude and trust, and saying, hey, it's good, it's a nice day outside today. Hey, I can go for a walk. Hey, I can have 5 kilometers, I can go there. Hey, I can go and get a takeaway coffee, provided I put my mask on. So that's my first tip is, and what I say to myself is accept, acknowledge, and appreciate. Does that make any sense?
It does, and just to reflect a little bit on, like you were saying, to acknowledge that I was listening and people are listening. I think that the acknowledge part of that is really important, especially at the moment when people are doing things through computers, and it can be a little bit difficult at times to know when somebody stopped talking. But to acknowledge that you've heard what somebody said and you relate to what they've said, and you can also, feel their empathise with them.
Yeah.
We are able to go for coffees, we have to wear masks and things, but there could be people in certain places that, life isn't as great, or they don't have the money to go for a coffee. So it can be a bit harder for them. And I really like that appreciating. We've been very lucky where we are with the weather, and so every day being able to say, well, I appreciate that it's not raining today, that it's not this, and appreciating the beautiful weather that we have had instead.
And what I do find is that the 3 A's, if you like, say if I'm doing that, then when my imposter syndrome or my inner critic is supposed to say, oh, I don't do this, that gets me moving again. Doing those 3 things. So it is. Even if I don't believe it in the moment, I just sort of say I still do it. This is not me saying this. I've been stealing this, say, from seminars and personal development and professional development seminars for decades. But I've taken the bits myself. But that leads me on to say some other things, some other words, which, if I may, just to say which and. Three things jump out at me. We often have to make, in times of lockdown, or when we're feeling down, we have to make decisions. And I discovered, again, another play on words, the word where the word decision comes from, or to decide. And we say, oh, it's terrifying to decide, particularly for me, who's been such a jumper. Where am I going to go next? I don't know. But decide, comes from the Latin cede, which means to kill off. And if we decide something, apparently the original word means to kill off from available options. So if you're going to decide something, I don't want to kill anything off. So perhaps we actually take these a little bit too far. So rather than deciding, hey, let's make a choice and lean into it, which is one of the things I learned from my personal development training. To lean into it. So rather than
I really like that idea of leaning in, and it's something that Chris and I have done similar trainings, and that does encourage a lot of leaning into things. And I think it's going to be really important for people as we come out of COVID as well, with all of that excitement and being set free in a way, leaning into different activities and different things, rather than just making very quick decisions. Because I think you're right, it's going to be a time where people need to kind of still take more time to evaluate what they want to do, rather than making some of those very quick decisions.
Absolutely. There's so many of these things which put us on the spot. And then, of course, our imposter syndrome or our inner critic, or I say, oh, I can't do it, comes up. And when we look at it, say we often it's very hard on ourselves making decisions. I can't do this. I've got responsibilities. I heard another very clever person, much cleverer than me, say responsibilities is say, all they are is what are my abilities to respond. So what could I do next? And it made me think, oh, lovely. Oh, right. So I don't have to sort of, worry too much about what it may be. Change. Another thing that I put into my trainings. Change is just a process. It's just a step by step. And say, we say, I'll do this, do this, do this. But the issue we've got, which comes out from, again, cleverer people than me, have said it's transition. Say that's the issue. And transition is psychological and takes time. So
and it's also that our idea that like with decisions, change or transition, you're actually killing off. So whenever you're going through a change, you're actually leaving the old behind. And there's very much that grieving process that you move through when you're leaving it behind. And I think with COVID and with a lot of the different world changes that are happening, it's important for people to recognise that they're going to have some period of grieving as they make these decisions, make these changes, and go through the different transitions.
Absolutely. So we don't need to have the right answer. So this is just to say we lean in. So I'm talking to myself here. So I can get very hung up and say I've got to do it right. I've got to get the right answer. But I say, but if I can use my emotional intelligence, say the effects that I can have on myself, on others, and what others can have on me. I can actually put the handbrake on and go, wait a minute. Actually, so I'm still here. Hey, is there a pulse? Yes, there is. I find to say this is good. And I know we're coming close to the end to say, but I just want to make one other key point, so which I again comes from somebody else, which I use in a lot of my trainings, is the idea of, okay, we've got our IQ, which is our intelligence about what we can do. Emotional intelligence, which is about to say how our emotions affect us, affect other people, and how we affect them. We got that. But the other one which has come up, which I'm sure many of your listeners will know, is the idea of meaning and meaning quotient, MQ, which was put together by one of those guys whose surname has got, I call him M alphabet, or C alphabet. Mahalyi or something, I can't even say it, but he talks about the idea of flow, and this is when people are in, when people are in the zone playing a musical instrument, or on a sports field, and suddenly everything works. And he talks about in those places when we have an opportunity to do that, what is it? What is the meaning? What is the excitement? What gives us our get up and go on a daily basis, which
what gets that fire in your belly kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I can really see again, Chris, you're such a knowledgeable person, and you've got so much to share with the world, and you can really see that you're an educator and a trainer, and even today with the 3 A's and the research that you did about decisions and other areas, it's been really wonderful to hear so much insights. But we are coming close to time. So how can people get hold of you, Chris?
They can get hold of me through LinkedIn. So they can also get hold of me through my website. I'm delighted to say I managed to get hold of facilitator.com.au. So that will get to me, or my email address, renewtraining@optusnet.com.au.
Fabulous. And for those not watching but listening, it's Chris, and Weymouth is spelt Weymouth. And 1 or 2 words, Chris, around what sort of advice you might give your younger self.
I guess it's the thing I like to say is I remember that humor or story is the shortest distance between two people. I didn't say that, but I wish I had. And humor, story, it connects us and gets us talking with each other. And say that's the fundamental key. And I'm so grateful, say that my wife wouldn't say this, but some people seem to think my sense of humor works in getting that connection going.
Fabulous. And thank you so much for coming on today, Chris, and for sharing your story and sharing it with so much humor and a bit of the earthquake and everything else. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you, Chris.
No worries. Lovely to talk to you.
And so everybody watching, thank you so much for coming on the show and watching again. And I really hope that, again, we had such a full half an hour where you got so much information and very generously shared from Chris with his stories and his insights into how you can go and create a successful mindset for yourself. But until next week, from my heart to your heart, be great, be fabulous, and be you.